Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Keene-Grassi. I'm here with Lauren Faby.
Hi.
We are stealing today's live and we could not be more excited. Today's conversation is really how you can refocus yourself as an employee or an entrepreneur in business, trying to connect with your inner self as well as connecting with the people around you, employees around you, other colleagues around you, especially in anxiety and stressful situations when you're up against a boss or you're up against maybe a coworker who may not be treating you as right as you want them to. So today's live is really going to be all about you. We encourage you to ask as many questions as possible and come on and just maybe share a story or two about maybe an experience you had that you want a little bit more clarity and direction on in business or through entrepreneurship. Tonight's all about you. So we really appreciate and honor this live stream. Thank you so much to Empower Her New York. And again, so I'm Danielle. I'm an anxiety strategist and a public speaker, such as Lauren as well. And I really work with women, especially in business, to calm their nerves and really refocus on who they are as individuals and how they can change their perspective of their outer world. So we're going to be taking a few different approaches tonight. We're going to be talking about how to approach delicate subjects in business, how you can be part of the solution in business, and you're in a job that you hate and how you can change that around to really enjoy life as it comes and not react to it. It's so important to actually take a perspective of not reacting, but going with the flow of life. And here Lauren Faby is also going to introduce herself.
Hi everybody, I'm Lauren. My biggest anxiety right now is that somebody's going to walk by us. So if that happens, my husband's supposed to be on standby, but I think he's working out instead. So anyway, we have our wine and we have our camera here. So hopefully, Danielle, as Danielle said, we're both public speakers. We consult with companies on a variety of different entrepreneurial subjects. Danielle's being anxiety, mine being how to develop a culture that enables really good, effective communication, both with employees and with customers.
Yeah.
So, there are lots of reasons why people find themselves in situations that they just don't know how to get out of. I mean, in business, in life, I mean, in our family life even. And so we're just going to tackle a couple of those sort of business-related topics, though. I mean, we all have a million different examples in our personal lives, but the strategies are the same, pretty much. And so if we don't get to answer your questions here on this Instagram Live, please know that we'll get back to you. And hopefully, if we have a lot of things to share, we can do this again and really tackle some of those questions that you have. And you can follow both of us. I'm at Lauren Beth Faby. And Danielle?
I'm at Keene Strategies, Keanstrategies.
So I guess we'll get into it.
Yes. So our first topic today is how to approach delicate subjects in business when you're up against maybe a peer or your boss. And the first subject here, we're going to be talking about how to really tackle asking for a raise, difficult subjects with a manager, and really phrases and words we can use in order to have that anxious feeling and overcome it, right, as individuals. So we're going to start off with asking for a raise, and this is in Lauren's wheelhouse, so I'm going to allow her to take it over.
So I have to tell you, I wasn't always the best employee, but I had a big lack of self-awareness, in what I would call my youth, which is like my early 40s compared to now. So anyway, I would say that one of the biggest mistakes that I think that people make when they're looking for a raise is, well, let me backtrack and say that the most important thing that a business owner can do is set up a culture that is super transparent,
Yeah.
where employees know exactly how to go about asking for raises, how to go about, getting really quality feedback on their work, so that all of the expectations are set and there's no surprises, right? So you don't have a situation where there is a ton of anxiety if someone, has a situation where they want to move up in their job, or they want more responsibility, or they want maybe more of a flexible work schedule. I mean, whatever it is that they need to be able to function as a really great employee within your company, it really is in your best interest to set up those processes and communicate them often, and make sure that you have things in place so that employees don't get super stressed out. Now, that's a perfect world, so let's assume that we're in the regular world where most companies are, where they don't sort of invest in those things. And we gotta get my girl gang shirt in.
Lauren has her girl gang shirt in, by the way, and so it's perfect for this live.
Anyway, so thinking back years ago, I was sort of really not super self-aware about maybe performance or the amount of time I was able to devote to certain projects. And so I think it's really important to take a little bit of a self-assessment. And when you're going to go approach a boss for a raise or more responsibility or flexible work schedule or time off or whatever it may be, I would say just make sure that you have a really good, realistic idea of what your performance has been. Are there metrics that you've met? Have you exceeded if you're in sales, are you hitting your quota? Are you consistently bringing value to your team? Do you make life easy for your boss? Are you someone that he or she doesn't have to worry about getting their work done? Are you someone that doesn't need to be micromanaged? Are you a self-starter? Those kinds of things. If the answer to those is yes, I'm overachieving in all of those things, then I would say for sure, make your goals known. In every business, it's not going to always equate to financial gain. Not every company is set up that way. Not every company has the ability to just arbitrarily give raises. So I would, again, make sure you know what those parameters are for your organization. I would also make a cheat sheet of, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? I mean, we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. What are yours? I would talk to some of my team members and say, what is great about working with me? What is not so great about working with me? What can you give me some tips of how do you see your strengths? Because quite frankly, I think I'm great at a lot of things, but maybe I'm not as great as I think I am at a lot of things, and maybe someone else has an idea of a strength that you have that maybe you don't see yourself. So I would make a cheat sheet of sort of, what are my best qualities in my work? How have I advanced the company's initiatives? Are you living the culture of the company? If the culture of the company is, something that, maybe you're not tied to a number, but you're tied to like a customer experience, or, make sure you know what those things are, and then have sort of your playbook in hand. And I would say make a plan. Make a plan and then execute it. So determine, can you set a meeting with your boss? I would certainly be really respectful of their time and make sure that you have time to articulate what you're trying to get out of the meeting. I wouldn't go in there right away with a lot of questions, but I would certainly let them know ahead of time why you're coming in, because you're not going to get the answer you want, or an answer at all, if you blindside someone. So I would certainly come in with a plan of attack and give them an opportunity to also be prepared. But don't come in with a lot of unknowns. Come in with a specific goal. Is it that you want to work from home every Friday? Is it that you need to leave at 4 o'clock every day to get to your kid's soccer practice? Is it that you need to walk your dog at lunch every day? Or do you want a $5,000 raise? Or do you want additional benefits? Or do you want the company to vest your stock early? Whatever it may be, have a plan and have reasons that are well thought out, that you can articulate what you're looking to get out of it. So, have a plan of attack and think 2 steps ahead. Think of what are the roadblocks going to be, like from his or her perspective. What are the what are the humps? Is this person even in the position to make this happen for you?
Being a solution-based person instead of coming with the problem. And I think Lauren can definitely advocate when it comes to asking for a raise or any of the following, taking time off. You're being in the solution-based, and you're impacting on the solution and not the problem.
Right. So, I mean, if you're in a job where, your busy time is, the fourth quarter, and I mean, I can tell you right now, if I didn't work for myself, I'd probably be fired, because my kids have a million things that I'm going to fly all over the country to do. And, if I was going to try to take time off during this fourth quarter at the company where I used to work, I mean, that would be sort of difficult because it's a really, really busy time. So if I were to go in during the fourth quarter, I would make sure that I would have a plan already thought out of how my work can get done in my absence. Or am I willing to front load my work? Am I willing to work longer hours when I get back? Who on my team can sort of cover for me? What are the pros and cons of this? What are the weaknesses of my plan?
That's great. That's awesome. And then words to use and phrases to use when going up to your boss and asking for that time off and asking for a raise or anything that you're wanting. What are some phrases and words we can use?
Well, I think it's different in every job, and I think what you need to do is go in and say, look, I understand the landscape of this company. So however that is, whether it's, I understand that our year-end results are going to exceed their target by X percent. Therefore, I have done X and Y, and I believe it's time for us to have a conversation about increasing my pay. Or, I believe that I understand that customer service is the most important thing to this company, and my goal is to advance by taking, by getting in a position that by this time next year I have X job. And here is why I believe this can happen for me, and this is a good solution for our company. I think that without knowing the motives of the company and the mission statement and the business goals are a big thing. If you're not tied in to the business goals of your company, you need to get tied in. If you don't know what the revenue producers are, what their targets are, you need to know that. If you don't know what your stock price is, you need to know that. If you don't know what investments your company is making in technology, or what's their roadmap for the future, you need to get clued into those things so that you are an asset for the future. You don't want to be a lagging indicator. Your performance can't be something in the past. You need to be a solution for the future.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And on top of that, the feelings, and if you're feeling that sense of anxiety, that sense of stress inside every time you're going to ask for that raise, that feeling is also going to carry over within your intention of asking. So check yourself before going in to every single meeting, every single interaction with your boss or a colleague, and make sure you're actually okay. some people get so nervous that they don't actually check up on their person, they don't check up on themselves. So take a mental checklist. How is your mental state at that time? How are you feeling internally? Are you feeling all balled up? That's what you're going to be presenting to other people when you go into that meeting. So you don't want them to feel that sense of struggle. You want to go in and ask for a raise and say, hey, I damn well deserve this raise because this is what I bring to the table. You're authoritative and you're confident in asking for that raise going forward. And that's going to carry you through. That always carries through because that's the intention, that's the emotion that's coming in. So it's the data, the analytical data, and that backs you up, and then the feeling state. So both paired together is going to be magic. And that's what's going to make you a winner every single time.
Yeah, I think the thing to really remember is set yourself up for success. Like, don't, if you have a million other things that are deliverables for that same day, like, make the meeting a different day. I mean, if you're not a morning person, don't have it in the morning. If your boss has, a deadline they have to meet by the end of the day, pick a different day. Make sure that you get the meeting on the calendar and you don't just pick a day where you're not going to have the time to really have a conversation about it. You need to make sure that you give yourself the best chance of success by setting up all of the external factors and have them be on your side.
And when setting up those external factors, also consider that you're not wasting your boss's time when asking for a raise. If you go in and just say, hey, I like a raise, I've been here for so many years, that's wasting his time. However, if you go in with this tactic and then the energy behind it, you're meant to be at that company and you're meant to have that price that's for your worthiness. You're worth that amount, but you need to feel that amount. Feel that amount inside before asking for it. That's very important as well. So that concludes our first section, how to approach delicate subjects.
And we only had one person or two people walk behind us,
so we're going to cheers to that one more time with our wine, our white wine. We're going to bring our white wine today and have a fun conversation and enjoy ourselves. So the second one is be a part of the solution, and we brought this up a little bit, but being a part of the solution rather than the problem. So there's two types of mental energy. There's one that we're asking, and then there's actually one that we're receiving. So asking is always the side of the problem, receiving is the side of the solution. So when you're receiving and you're feeling that solution, you're in the flow with your job, you're in the flow with your clients, you're in the flow of your own life. You're receiving that solution. So what does your boss want? Does he want more problems, or does he want to receive into a bigger merger, into new opportunities? Be on the side of that receiving, going with the flow of the energy.
The other thing I think it's really important to remember is that very few jobs and careers have a linear path.
Yeah.
I mean, I think unless you're going to be in some sort of clinical profession, or you're going to go to law school or something like that, I mean, very few times can you have a career that doesn't necessarily get diverted in different directions sometimes. And I think to keep your mind open to what those opportunities are, and really listen to yourself and what you enjoy doing, and ask your colleagues, pay attention to what they're doing.
Yeah.
What are some of the other positions within your company or even outside of your company? I mean, I personally worked for a pretty big company in one city, and I really liked the work that a vendor was doing, and they were in another city, and they hired me, and I ended up working for them for 2 years on a lot of different projects that I would have never been exposed to, nor would I have sought out if I wasn't open to that.
Yeah.
I think that you learn something from every position you take, and I don't think that there's necessarily one path. And so I think that that's really important to remember, whether you're starting your career, whether you're thinking about starting your own business, whether you are, about to get shot down for a raise. Maybe you're not going to get what you want from your boss. Maybe she or he is just not going to hear what you have to say. And then you can sort of, reflect and think, are these my people? Are these the type of people that I've laid out how I want to see my life, and they're not really listening to me, and there doesn't seem to be a way at this company that I can really reach my goals. Okay, so maybe then it's time to think about something else.
Yeah.
And that's okay,
So there were some questions that came in, and I'm trying really hard to read them, and I can actually read one of them, so I'm excited. Are there any exercises that we can do before going into a meeting? So if you're talking, I think we can talk both about this. For the anxiety side, any anxious people, before going into a meeting, really go back to the seat of self. And what do I mean by that is actually trust. Trust in yourself that you are worthy enough in order to go into that meeting as confident as possible. So what you're going to do is actually ground yourself. And there's an exercise we can do all together in order to do so. So grounding ourselves looks like trusting the universe, trusting our life, trusting our path within our life. So what you're going to do is you can close your eyes or just visualize with your eyes open the idea of going back and sitting back into just really nice, comfortable pillows, and knowing that you are actually worthy. You are worthy in this life, and you are worthy to do everything you want to do because you're here. You wouldn't be on this life path if you weren't actually worthy in order to do so. So any challenges that are coming up, or any sense of that ego that's telling you a false identity, they're just coming up to leave. They're coming up to leave. But if we at any time push that anxious feeling down, it's going to just trickle back up and trickle back up every single time we push it down. So it's there to actually leave. And as we go back to that seat of self and imagine us just diving into the deliciousness of trusting that our life is going on the trajectory it is, we take the idea of contrast and we take the idea of anything bad that's happening in our life, and we can actually flip it around and going, hey, this is actually a challenge, and I can accept this challenge and go with the contrast of life, or I can push it down and not go with it and just kind of distance myself and not learn from it. We're here to learn, we're here to create, we're here to discover ourselves. And that's why challenges arise, is because we discover a new identity with ourselves as the challenge comes up. So it's okay, actually welcome the challenge in, and it's not as much as a challenge. It's come an opportunity to learn a little bit more about ourselves and to learn about what we like and dislike. As life comes to us, we decide, we kind of like this, we kind of don't like this. So as things come up, we start to prefer and go with what we want instead of what we don't. So it's kind of just an area where we can take life as it comes and not be too deflective with it. We can just get into the mixture of it and get into the flow of it without jumping to conclusions or what is the word I'm looking for? Without just going against ourselves, right? We can actually find an area within and say, hey, this is actually happening for my benefit, and I could not be more excited because I know I'm going to learn from this, I'm going to discover more about myself, and I'm going to have fun with it. I'm going to have fun.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
It's really great advice.
Thank you.
And I would just add, remember when you were in like 5th grade and you decided maybe to not study for a test? I mean, maybe it's happened to a few of us. And, you go to school the next day and maybe you stayed up a little late watching TV, and you go to school and you think, I'm just going to wing it. I know this. I've been in class. I'm just going to wing it. And the teacher passes out the paper and you freak out. how much better would you feel if you had studied, right? And everyone says, oh, I should have studied, I should have studied. This is your career. You need to go into asking for a raise, asking for time off, asking for, flexible work schedule, whatever it is that you need that's so important to your life that you're willing to have this conversation. Yeah. And you're willing to be transparent about what your needs are, and you need to go in with a plan. Yeah. You need to know your numbers. You need to know your worth. You need to know what you're good at. You need to know what you want out of your life. Yeah. If you get a meeting where you are able to articulate this, I beg you to be honest. Be honest, and hopefully you have a corporate culture that allows you to be honest, which is what I train corporations on having. Yeah. So if you don't have one, you should have one, because then you can retain your employees. Yeah. That's another topic for another day. But anyway, you will feel so much better if you know your subject matter, which is you. So think about what you want. Be realistic. Have some reaches. Have some, here's what the minimum I'm looking for. And then also articulate what you're trying to get out of it by setting an agenda for the meeting and letting the person know why you're meeting.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For sharing. So we're on to our second/B subject, which is how can you own your own mistakes? How can you actually take the opportunity to own a mistake instead of deflecting it, and instead of feeling really bad about it inside? How can you own that and make it really part of your own journey?
Oh, geez. Okay, so I'm like the queen of making mistakes, and I used to be the queen of avoidance, but not so much anymore. And I think that comes with maturity and really learning yourself and being okay with not being everything to everybody. Yeah. So, I mean, look, we all make mistakes in our personal lives. I mean, certainly, I'm a mother, so I make a gazillion mistakes, and I pray my children forgive me one day for all of the mistakes and guinea pig type treatment that they've got from me. Yeah. But anyway, in the workplace, I mean, it's really super important to be transparent in your mistakes. I mean, look, so many times I can think back to specific examples where I misread something or I misheard something. And I took the project in one direction and it needed to go into another. And maybe my boss wasn't the happiest with me after that. There was a time where I would just avoid it, and just try to, reschedule a meeting or whatever. Don't do it. Just, if you can, the sooner you own your mistakes, the easier they are to correct, and the more trust you build with your teammates, the more trust you build with your clients. You have a product, it doesn't work, apologize. Yeah. Send them a new one. Refund their money. You'll earn people's business by treating them with respect, which is admitting you did them wrong, however it is. I think that's a good lesson. I think a lot of times, when you're first starting out in a job, it's hard to sort of own those mistakes. I can tell you I do a lot of coaching with kids that are just right out of college, and what I tell them is you are at the perfect time in your career to admit what you don't know, because nobody expects you to know anything. So especially if you're starting a new job, you get a new set of responsibilities, you have a new boss, it's okay to say, I don't know what you want from me. Let's set some expectations. How do you want me to fix this problem if I screw up? What am I allowed to do? What sort of decisions am I empowered to make? And then, and as a boss, I would say, let your people know what their swim lanes are. Will you empower them to make it right for the client without having to go through like a bunch of channels? Will you be transparent in, your communication with them. Will you be transparent that they're not going to get fired if they make a mistake? I mean, that's huge. So, I think that's just a few tips.
So the energy that you feel when you do make a mistake is all ego. So ego is anything that you defend, hide, justify, or protect. So if you feel like you're doing any of those four, you're hiding yourself, you're defending, justifying your limitations, or protecting yourself against anything that will hurt your ego in some way. So when you say mistake, it comes from an ego because it's something you've done wrong, but nothing's ever wrong. It's only a learning lesson that we can actually continue to develop ourselves as a human being, as our own persona. So think of a mistake as, okay, it's something that happened, it's something that I'm going to get over, and it's something that I'm going to learn from. I know some of my clients who are in apologetic form and go, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And it's like, you already said sorry once. We can actually move over from that sorry, and we can actually identify what we want or who we want to be as people. So moving away from the idea of, I made a mistake, to, I made a mistake. Perfect. Let's go over, let's learn from this mistake, and actually let's continue on because we know we're badass, right? We're badass women. So it's okay. We made a mistake. Say sorry once, not more than once. And then continue on. And know that people are not going to hold grudges, and if they do, then that's their problem. That's their problem if they're going to hold a grudge, but we're in the learning process. So for our third topic, last but not least, is that if you're in a job that you just hate, how to overcome that anxiety or that internal dialogue of the perpetual state of being upset every time you hit that alarm clock in the morning, every time you have to go into work, you're driving into work and going, you know what, today is just going to be an awful day. I hate the situation I'm in. I hate my boss. I don't like my coworkers. If that sounds like you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. There's so many women that are feeling this nowadays. And I was having dinner before our live with Lauren, and I was telling her that anxiety looks like for kids 50 years ago, the level of anxiety that we have today would be treated in a psych ward 50 years ago. They did a study that if you had that particular amount of anxiety now that's common, would be treated in a psych ward 50 years ago. So it's something that has been such a huge issue, especially within the workforce, and it definitely needs to be under control as best as we can. So if you're going into a position and you are just hitting that alarm clock, you're hating on your day, you're going in, you're actually perpetuating that anxious form. You're perpetuating that it's going to be a bad day going forward. You're perpetuating how angry you see your life. And again, like we were talking about in the beginning of our conversation, is that you're becoming part of the problem. You're no longer part of the solution right now. So how do you get from the problem to the solution? Is that you have to change your mindset. Again, like we mentioned in the beginning of this live, is going back into that seat of self, knowing that you're here and you're in the situation for a reason, and that you can actually get over it. And knowing that you're aware that you can get over it is step one. Knowing that it is temporary, like we also mentioned, step one. It's all temporary. It's our decision to change our trajectory as we're going forward. So if we're in a job that we hate, start loving it. And how you can start loving it is simple ways. Find that coworker that you actually trust in that position. Concentrate, focus on that coworker. How does she make you feel? Don't focus on that boss at the time. Focus on the good stuff. Maybe it's close to home. Maybe it's flexible hours. What is actually good about that job? Be a part of the solution. Oh, I really enjoy this part of my position here. That's something I'm willing to take to the next place. I really enjoy this. I can turn this problem into a solution by my own mental state. And once you feel into being part of the solution, you actually attract more clarity and you actually attract more creativity in order to get you from the negative state into a different position, a different job you enjoy. But staying in a positive state just allows you to be on another level of vibrational success that you won't sink every single time you hit the alarm clock. You go, ooh, I get to see that, my friend that I really like, and yeah, we'll complain, but at least I get to see her. Oh, yes, it's close to work. I don't have to deal with an hour commute. Find the sweet spot in your job before moving over to the next job.
Yeah, I would just say, we all live in the real world.
Yeah.
Everybody has bills, everyone has responsibilities, and most of us work because we have to work. We need to earn a living, to support our families or, to pay our bills or whatever. And so I think that, when you come to a point where you feel like, okay, so I'm going to employ the strategies that Danielle is talking about. I'm going to decide today when I get to work that I'm going to savor those little wins. If you could find a couple little wins per day or per week, maybe there's someone that you really enjoy having a meeting with once a week. Maybe there's a client that you really enjoy working with.
Yeah.
Put your all into those things and then make a plan. Again, like I'm like a broken record.
She's the plan.
But I'm all about, making a plan and executing the plan.
Yeah.
So, all right, so back in the day, I wanted to have my own business.
Yeah.
But I had one kid in private school, 2 kids in college, really terrible divorce that left me with no money. I needed to buy a car, and so on and so on and so on. So I was forced to, sort of stay in that trajectory where I took jobs for the money. I was smart. I kept getting promoted. I moved from one company to the next with a higher level of responsibility here and then there and all of that. And that's all great, but it didn't fill my soul, right? So it paid the bills, didn't really feed my soul. So, but I did a good job, and I cultivated those relationships and found the joy in certain aspects of my job that I really, really got good at. And I got good at those skills, and then I was able to transfer those skills when it was time for me to have, when I had a little bit of breathing room and I had time to then go out on my own and do my own thing. But what I didn't do was burn bridges, and I didn't, just jump off of a cliff.
Yeah.
You don't really have those choices. Some people make the choice to do those things, but in the long run, if you can employ some strategies to sort of say, okay, it's fine if you're not going to be somewhere forever. But how can you take those things you really enjoy about your job and look how you can develop those skills, use the resources you have, use the connections you have, really develop the relationships with those people that you work with that can help you go where you need to be.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And just the part about burning bridges is that everyone's a connection and everyone is a referral. Everyone knows someone, and so what kind of Lauren is saying is she's built it, what she's had from the ground up because of the people around her. And
that's right.
People that are willing to help at every step of the way, and that is so damn powerful.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you're honest about what your goals are, it's okay to have goals.
Yeah.
It's okay to have goals that maybe are not working for your company for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you need to be selling your company that you're going to start 3 years from now while you're doing your current job. I wouldn't advocate that at all. But it's okay to let people know, hey, one day I'd really like to speak to organizations about XYZ. What are your thoughts on that? Do you know anyone who does it? Maybe you can say to someone you work with, are there any opportunities for me to hone my skills in creative writing at this job? Or, maybe I can take on some project management, or, I'm really creative. Maybe there's a way I can be involved in planning XYZ and bring some spunk to it. Whatever, bring some new blood, new life into this project. Whatever it is.
And that's our conversation for today. Thank you so much for the love. I'm seeing it in the feed. And we just really appreciate and are just so honored that you're here with us today as we talk about these subjects, because they're hard subjects. And it takes a lot of hard work when you're growing and you're developing into a new person constantly. And so feel free to reach us at any turn. We're more than happy to help and answer questions as they come up. You might not have a question until maybe tomorrow. Sit with this information and really let us know how we can serve you to the highest. So Lauren's going to give her information, then I'll give mine.
Okay, so you can follow me on Instagram at LaurenBethFaby. The website for my company is www.laurenfaby.com. Pretty easy, F-A-B-Y, LaurenFaby.com. And I look forward to hearing from all of you.
So my name is Danielle Keene-Grassi again. You can find me at website www.kean.strategies, strategies.com. My email is ask, that's A-S-K, at keanstrategies.com. And then on Instagram at Kean, K-E-A-N, strategies, S-T-R-A-T-E-G-I-E-S. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys for all the love. Please let us know if you have any questions. We're here to help. We're so excited and so honored to be a part of this group, and we just are excited to be in this co-creative space with you. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Bye.